Off the Wall Productions is proud to present Voices of the Methow. This is a series of conversations with interesting folk in and around the valley. Hey, this is Byron, and it's my extreme pleasure to have Ken Bevis here with me. Welcome to the show, Ken.
Hi, Byron. Glad to be back.
Now, I know you get around the valley a lot, but can you introduce yourself and give a little background about yourself for those who might not be familiar with you?
Sure. My name is Ken Bevis, and I've lived here in the Methow Valley for about 10 years. My wife, Terry Piper, the photographer, and I came up a while back, and I work as a wildlife biologist for the state. And I've always been a naturalist. I've always been kind of crazy for things in nature, trees and the outdoors and everything. And the Methow is a bit of a dream come true because so much of that is here. So I want to add to that too, a real pleasure about being here is the community and the fact that there are so many musicians and such a strong movement, if you want to call it that, of people making music.
Well, talking about music, Ken, when did you start playing the guitar?
Let's see, I picked up a guitar when I was in college in 1976, and I went to Virginia Tech, and I got a $40 Hondo. Well, real nice instrument. And I took a night class from, some student guy, and we learned how to strum a couple chords. And then I'd go back to the dorm room, and I just kind of dug it. And my brother played guitar, and I just started messing with it. And from that day forward, I've always had one, and I just sort of plunked along. I lived as a, quote, forest ranger in Colorado for several years doing trail work and such, and I kind of learned to play campfire songs.
Sure.
So I learned, Ghost Riders and Country Roads, and every now and then I'd strum some chords, and I've always enjoyed singing, and so those two things just were sort of percolating and brewing along for years.
How has your playing evolved? Are you pretty much self-taught, or?
No, that's a good question. Yeah, actually, I've taken little stints of lessons, like, 3 or 4 times, including with Terry Hunt when I first got here. And I had plateaued, if you want to call it that, for many years where, my joke was I knew 2 songs, the GCD song and the EAB song. And I moved to the Methow after I came up here from Yakima. And in Yakima, I had just started to work at it a little bit. I'd started going to some open mics. And then this life change came, and I showed up here, and a particular influence were open mics that Odion hosted, the Open Merc, down here in Twisp. And that went on for a couple years, and I made friends with Odion, rest his soul. You remember Odion Steinbach, who he and Carol Ann basically founded the Merc. But we had the Open Merc, and they would have these monthly sessions, and I became a regular. I'd show up all the time. There were a couple of events, the musicians of the Methow, and so I started to work at it. And since we moved here, basically I just began to take it a lot more seriously. And I had written songs over the years. I have a dear friend from Lyle who, whenever I'll visit him, he'll go, "What do you got? Got anything new?" And I go, "Oh yeah, I got a song about it." And I'd play him a song. And Bill Weiler, insisted that I record this stuff. He's like, "You need to record this stuff." So we went into a studio somewhere down in Hood River in a barn and laid down this little demo disc, which was fun. And that led to essentially taking it more seriously and starting to work at it harder.
Yeah. Well, I really dig your guitar playing style. You do a lot of hammer-ons and tapping on the guitar body. I know from experience it's harder than it looks. It really takes some finesse to get those sounds.
Finesse, I like that. I haven't often heard finesse applied to me, but I appreciate that. Well, I was going to mention this too, that I've been journaling for longer than I've been playing guitar. And I write poetry, and I've been writing poetry for years, which is one of those sort of like, little secrets. People who write poetry don't often step up and say, "Oh, would you like to hear a poem that I wrote?" And I've actually participated in a couple of readings here. But the guitar as the rhythmic foundation with the words, and those two sort of started to come, or they come together. And sometimes I'll have a guitar lick that I'll find words to match, and sometimes I'll have words that beg for a guitar lick. And so you write out a poem, and basically there it is. And sometimes you can feel and just intuit the tone and the rhythm that would go with that. And so my guitar, somebody say, like, what style do you play? So, well, basically I'm a rhythm guitarist with a strong emphasis on lyrics. And so some of them are stories and some of them are just kind of little catchy riffs with a theme, though. And the theme will be nature or maybe a story, something related to my perception and experience. Seldom is it fiction.
So Ken, if I'm hearing you right, while you've got lyrics, you've got music. Sometimes does the music sometimes fit the song? Sometimes the words will bring the music to it, like that, or?
Yes, actually, that's a good description, because sometimes there'll be a lick. So, for example, I've got a lick brewing right now that's this cool little bluesy thing, and it's turning into a song about a coyote, a three-legged coyote, but it's not done yet. But I had the lick first, and then I found that. I have a couple of songs where something happened to me in life that reminded me of a song. I'll tell you about one in particular. It's called Lay Me Down in the Woods. Lay me down in the forest so I can be part of the trees.
Well, I'll tell you what, why don't you just play that for us right now?
When I die, lay me down in the woods with the rotten logs. Lay me down in the forest so I can be part of the trees. Let my bones bleach white, my flesh turn to soil. I'll peek at you from neath the needles and leaves. When I die, lay me down in the woods so I can be free. Out in the woods, ooh, that would be good. Ooh, rot in the woods. I wanna be part of the ecology. Decomposition is the process for me. Let my molecules get up and cycle round and around. I wanna be in the bowl of the tallest tree. Wanna dance in the breeze as a shining leaf. When I die, lay me down in the woods so I can be free. Ooh, out in the woods. That would be good. Ooh, rot in the woods. out in the woods. When I die, lay me down in the woods with the rotten logs. Lay me down in the forest so I can be part of the trees. Let my bones bleach away, my guts turn to soil. I'll peek at you from neath the needles and leaves. When I die, lay me down in the woods so I can be free.
Okay, hey, that was a great song, Ken. Hey, can you talk about that now, please? Just kind of tell us the story.
It's a little bit sad, but my brother fell really ill, and he was in the hospital essentially at the end of his days. And I went to see him, and it was just terribly heartbreaking. And I went for a walk in the woods, and he was in this, like, you know, hospital state with all the tubes and all that stuff. And I remember thinking, oh, and I went for a walk in the forest in Virginia, where I'm from, and it was these beautiful beech trees and oak trees, and there were these rotten logs. And I stopped, and I looked at these rotten logs, and I said out loud in the woods, when I die, lay me down in the woods with the rotten logs. And like the light bulb went off. It's like, I almost laughed, I have to admit. That'd be a great song lyric. And I went back inside and I wrote a poem. And that was the first line.
Nice.
And I started messing with it, and it was like, and then the song, and the kind of, no, what's the word? It's not a dirge, but it's a lament. Came out of the sky.
Yeah.
And it was inspired by seeing my dear brother, and he did pass not long after that. And I played that at his funeral.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So that's a good example of the words before the song.
For the song.
Yep.
Well, talking about songwriting and whatnot, you were saying, I think, that you sometimes use a digital recorder.
Yeah.
How does that work?
Well, here's this little gem right here.
Oh, there it is, yeah.
Yep. Not an endorsement, but it's an Olympus.
Okay.
The thing weighs about 5 ounces.
Yeah,
it's
doesn't
tiny,
take up much space. Yeah.
and it has
Oh, cool.
amazing quality. It astounds me how good this thing is.
Oh, great.
So I'll have an idea. You know, I'm a 3-legged coyote. I'm asleep in the grass, and I go, ooh, that's pretty good. And I don't know if you've ever done writing. Well, you do write and such.
Yeah.
And you'll have these ideas that here they are.
Yeah.
You got to get them.
You got to get them.
Because if you don't, it's gone. And it's really hard to remember a song, well, for me anyway, probably not for some people, but some melody that comes out of the air. It's like, yeah, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So I will take this little beast, sit it down, turn it on, and I'll say, idea for a song, March 3rd, 2018, E, A, and then I'll describe the chord. It's the 5th fret, that one with the 2 top strings, and up here, kind of that one, back to the E. And then I'll sing it. And I'll go, E, 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 A, 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 A.
Oh, what a great thing.
Do.
So you can, you've got a lot of information right there, and just that little bit that you can use
Right.
to key in later.
There's an archive of 100 of these. So if I'm ever famous, Methow Valley, somebody find these digital things, and you can do a retrospective of all the songs that I never recorded.
That you never recorded, yeah.
There's a bunch of them that are like it's almost like a sketch. This is a sketchbook. It's a musical sketchbook, and it's remarkable just how you. Oh, and then I do a lot of travel for my job, and I listen to them while I drive.
Sure.
And so I'm actually working on my songs by hearing it over and over. And then if I have a draft that I don't really like, I delete it and do it again until I got it the way I want it. And that's the only one that I'll listen to.
Ah, right. That's smart. Yeah.
It's pretty interesting because when you arrange a song, there's a certain point where that's how it goes. You do the chorus twice, whatever. You think of any song that you're familiar with, and we know how the song goes. Well, why does it go like that? Because the songwriter decided that's how it went.
Right.
And that's how it goes. At some point, you have to say, this is the arrangement. There it is. So anyway, yes, so I use this little gem a lot.
Well, you've been writing songs for a while now, and I believe you mentioned that having a goal and a timeline sometimes helps.
Oh, yeah. Because I have done a couple of almost commissions.
That was the word. I was trying to remember
for people.
What you...
Right.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you've ever heard my Methow, my home song, that was written for the Methow Conservancy for an event that they had. And they essentially hired me. And it was a challenge. It's like, we want a song to reflect this, that, and the other. That Okanagan song was for the Okanagan Highlands Alliance over in Tenasket.
Oh, okay.
And they were doing a concert. They did a concert. This was very cool. They did a concert with songs about the Okanagan and about that. And I wrote Okanagan as a collaboration with Julie Ashmore, who works with them, a wonderful woman who sings like an angel. And anyway, so we did this email collaboration where she was like, I said, well, what do you want? Well, I want something with a sweeping tone, something that makes you think about the landscape. Okay, give me some words. And we did this email back and forth where she gave me key phrases like majestic pines, purple lupins. And so I wrote a poem basically and started playing with those phrases and built it into the right number of,
I'll say you did. That's a beautiful song.
It is so cool. Yeah. And it's like, wow. And then I sent it back to her in a recorded version using the recorder.
Yeah.
And then she came, she replied, and we did this little back and forth, and then we performed it together.
And well, yeah. This is probably a good lead into your CD that you've had it out for a couple of years now.
It came out 2 years ago. It's called Wanderer's Moon. It's 12 songs, and it took 15 months to record. I worked with Breathe down in Libby Creek in his shack. It seems a theme here. First CD I recorded in a barn, then I recorded in Breathe's cabin. I called it the shack. That was an inside joke. And I brought in other players. I brought in 7 other players, including Brad Pinkerton, rest his soul, John Weeks, the former Valley resident, the violin wizard, Jeff Herzog, harmonica, amazing guy, my friend Bill Weiler from the Gorge, Jennifer and Judy of Notable Exceptions, formerly Horse Crazy, Richard Wasson of Cider House on the drums, Egon Steinbeck is on there on harmonica.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And there's one more. And so it was, and Julie Ashmore. And so it just was this marvelous experience of listening to other people interpret my work. So I had laid down the scratch track, and I worked with Breathe to get those just the way I wanted them. It's like, okay, that's solid. That took a long time. That was many months of going in for like 3 and 4 hours at a time till we had it. Then I would bring in the other player, and the goal was to have them there once for one afternoon session. And I sat there and listened to them interpret my song. And it was so cool. Honestly, it was one of the most thrilling artistic things I've ever done, because they had heard the songs before they went there, because I emailed them to them. So I thought through, it's like, okay, Byron's a pretty good slide guitar player or whatever. Oh, Don McIver, he's the other person.
Oh, there you go.
Don McIver from right down here on Twist Highway. My dear friend, he's a good guitar player. And they had heard the songs, and they got to practice them. So they got to sort of think through how they were going to play it. And then we sat there and listened. It was so cool. So then we layered these things. And so the goal was to have no more than 3 players. We wound up with like 4 on each song.
Right.
And I had sat down with several friends and listened to the scratch tracks and said, what would be good on that song? And so it's like, that one would be good with, mandolin. Some of the songs with Brad on them, it's perfect. And then Breathe was the, the sound engineer and kind of a co-producer, because then he would mix and cut some things. There were several times where we had something that we tried 2 different versions on a song, and it either didn't work, or we took one out or put one in and then had it come in and out.
Right.
And so the versions that you hear on Wanderer's Moon are one of a kind. And then we had a concert. We had a concert in July of 2016 at the Merc. 100 people came, and I had not everybody, but most of the players were there. And so we pulled off a 2 full set concert. It was a life experience. It was amazing. It really was. And I have to share with you that probably the best music of that whole day was right here where we sit, when about 4 of us were practicing that morning. And it turned into this marvelous thing. And I'm still feeling thrilled about it, because I had never in my wildest dreams imagined that my songs could become something so real. You know, that something that you would dream up creatively could be embraced by these other people, especially such talented people. It's like, wow, really? Wow. And so it was just so cool. So yeah, I still got a couple copies if anybody wants one. They're at the Winthrop Gallery. And
I was going to ask you where if somebody was wanting to hear that, which I highly recommend, is the Winthrop Gallery. And
they've got a couple. You know, I should put some at Rocking Horse. I haven't done that yet.
Rocking Horse, yeah.
But yeah, they're around. There's a few of them, and so I have aspirations of doing another disc, which is actually, truth be told, half done, because when I worked with Breathe, then we recorded 19 songs. And we put 12 on the disc.
Oh, okay. Well, songs are kind of cool because they come from you, through you, and you never know where they're going to go or who they're going to affect, or, you know, I mean, like, it's pretty cool.
It is really cool. That is absolutely, I can relate to the idea. I remember an old friend who was a painter, and she said, those are my babies. And when I finish with them, I send them out into the world, and I let go of them. And if they land somewhere and someone loves them, that's wonderful. And so I'm starting to think about that with my songs. You know, there's no higher compliment with a song than to have somebody cover it.
Right. Yeah.
And so, you know, I'm looking forward to somebody needs to, hopefully somebody hears this, needs to pick up Methow, My Home, and do that different versions. I want to hear it, you know, hip hop and bluegrass and you know, and it's I would be delighted to share anything I have with anybody. I had a dream. I was flying in the sky like a free bird on the wing. Dreaming of loving home in places and in faces, drifting on the breeze with open heart. Then I spied a valley, smiling verdant green, a river running through it, meandering and clean. Beautiful place, cleft from the high Cascades, jagged peaks surrounded. The smile on my face, I think I found it. Oh, the Methow, my home. Oh, the Methow, my home, home, home. Wander the world and have found where I belong in this Methow, my sweet home. Let me describe it to you. Well, riverbanks covered with cottonwood so fine, hills above are solid, ponderosa pine. Balsam root exploding, wild yellow in the spring, red-tailed hawks and meadow larks fly and then they sing. Tiny flowers hide beneath blue bunch and bitter brush. Brown season comes, leaves fall down, autumn's golden shine. Winter comes quickly, the snow begins to fall. White world, it goes to sleep, to awaken in the spring in my home. Oh, the Methow, my home. Oh, the Methow, my home, home, home. Wander the world and have found where I belong in this Methow, my sweet home. and I've made friends through music that I would never meet otherwise.
Right, yeah.
I would never meet otherwise. And, you know, keep going to these open mics and things now and running into the likes of Greg Hardy and Dan Burton, start naming them. And it's remarkable.
Well, it's kind of like right here, right now.
Well, that's right. Oh, well said.
Yeah. So you never know what's in the future.
That's right, because you heard me play somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
At the Cider House, wasn't it?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, talking about that outside space at the Cider House, Rob Ikes and Trey Hensley were there this summer, and that was a nice concert.
That was a nice concert, and I got to play on that same stage like 2 weeks before them.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, wow, because sometimes because I'm self-trained and I make this stuff up and it comes out of the atmosphere, I feel like a little bit of an imposter. And so, you know, I'm just this hack guitarist who makes songs up out of the air, and yet I played on the same stage that those two virtuosos do, and I had John Weeks there sawing on his fiddle, playing my songs, and I get up and play, and people get up and they want to jam with me, and it's like, wow. And so that's really interesting.
That is way cool. You know, I'm glad you said that. You'd mentioned that before, and I wasn't going to bring it up, but since you did, good for you, because we all, I think, have that little voice in the back of our heads. I know I do with what I'm doing here even, you know, it comes up on and off. So thanks for speaking to that. And yeah, just it's nice to be able to say to that little voice, thanks for sharing, and just keep moving on. You know?
I think it's the voice of fear. You know, that whole thing about life is driven by fear and desire. And once you overcome that fear and you step up and go, I can do this. I mean, because I actually had a revelation a few years back where it was, I'm a performer. I'm a teacher. I get up and I give talks. I love to get in front of people. Well, you like attention? Yeah, I like attention, I do. And it feeds me, it gives me energy. And I get going and I start singing and I sweat and my adrenaline comes pumping up and I do a performance and I know if I nailed it or not. Sometimes it's like, that was good. And other times, you know, that was okay. And so your goal as a performer is to never be bad. May I say suck? Never suck.
Never suck. That sounds like good words of wisdom.
And if you're going to perform for one person or 1,000, it's the same performance. You're going to pour yourself into it. And if you do that, then you're free. You free yourself to be beyond that voice, beyond that fear, to just do it. And then the sincerity of that comes through. And if you technically glitch a little bit, so what? Because your verve, your heart is out there.
Your intention, basically.
Exactly. Well said.
Okay.
And it'll come through, absolutely come through. Watch a really good performance, and it'll be driven by the intention. And when you have several people who have been performing together and they nail that, yes. And that's my goal. My goal is to always be full of soul, heart, intention, step aside from fear, and just do the best I can anytime I get up there.
Yeah, well put.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because that I don't know. I think it's cliche, but music is a universal language. It's something that people get intuitively. I mean, it's down in us. Even if it's rhythm or whatever, even people who aren't that musical will get it. And I think it can lead to unity and kindness. And I wanted to make sure that I threw this out because all this chaos in the world, you know, mad at this, that, and the other. I think the single thing we can do individually is to be kind to each other, to be respectful, to be nice. And music can help you be there. And so that's what you do with music. It's very, very, very rare is music a source of aggression, if you think about that.
Right.
And so that's part of my, late in life goal is to use my music to make people smile and make people be together and be kind.
I just want to congratulate you on something that's really well worth doing. Thanks so much for saying that. I mean, just for the intention of that, because being kind is so important. It's so important in this day and age, right here, right now. And yeah, the kinder we can be, and also what you're talking about, music. That's music it's a universal language, and also like people with Alzheimer's, and things, they may lose the ability to speak and maybe even understand words, but at the same time they'll enjoy music. The music gets through. I was talking to someone the other day just about that. They have a friend who has Alzheimer's, and we're saying what a gift music is.
My dad is 97 years old, and he's starting to fade away, and we set the headphones on his head and play my CD for him.
Oh.
And he likes it. He sits there and closes his eyes and sways.
Oh, nice. Yeah, yeah.
And he knows it's me, too. I say, "What do you listen to, Pop?" He'll say, "That's Ken." So, it's good.
It is good. Well, is there anything you want to add or that we might have missed before we wrap up for today?
Well, let's see. I want to throw a pitch in for the open mics here in the Valley. So I've started hosting open mics, and we're trying to work it out where we're going to have them at Cider House, the Tap Room in Twisp,
okay,
and the old schoolhouse.
Okay.
And they'll be separate weeks. And we've got a core right now of probably 25 or 30 people that come and go at these open mics. And I have to say that open mics have been an instrumental part of my own development, because when you get up there and do that, you have to set that voice aside.
Right.
And and sometimes people don't necessarily play that well, or they're really scared, but it's like, yay, you did it, get up there. And then just the camaraderie that comes with it, so it's sort of like, it's like a little talent show. You're taking a chance. And I think we're right at the little cusp of where we could have a regular series of these, and they're really fun to go listen to. And, you can support these local businesses. So open mics in the Methow Valley are a cultural phenomenon that we are encouraging.
Okay, yeah. Ken, thanks for doing this. Thanks for being on the show. I appreciate you being here. And we'll be looking forward to hearing your music, your next CD coming out here in the near future.
Hopefully we're going to have a concert near the end of the summer.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll be looking forward to that.
Thank you for including me in this, Byron. I am honored to be part of your series, and I compliment you on off the wall and the cool interviews you've had. I'm listening to it, so I'm kind of a fan, so I'm tickled to be part of it.
Well, thank you. Yeah. So this is Byron and
Ken
saying, so long for now, and keep her on the route. Oh, yeah. Once again, the songs we played were Lay Me Down in the Woods and Methow My Home. You can find out more about Ken Bevis at www.kenbevis.com, and you have the option to buy some tunes and support his music. What a deal, huh? You've been listening to Voices of the Methow, an off-the-wall production. Until next time, thanks for listening.